So now let's explain what the characteristics of ego. Ego has context, structure, and relies heavily on identification. Now we talked about identification earlier, okay? Now, context. We always say you call me out of context, right? When I kind of changed the word context from the earlier word, I had to look up the dictionary, like a good lawyer would, Context means circumstances in which something happens and something is to be considered, all right? So that's what context means. So it's not just kind of abstract, it can be content as well. Now, context identification is conditioned by the environment, upbringing, and culture. We talked about that earlier, didn't we? Structure. In this word structure, it's like when you build a house. You put the iron frame up, and then you hang things on top, and then you build a house, right? This is how they do it. And that's why the World Trade Center collapsed like a domino, because that structure was burned. Okay, structure is the thought process underlying ego's identification with form. This tough concept. Again, emphasize thought and identification. Right? That's what structure is. It's a thought form, and we identify with that structure. That thought form is the iron beams that build the house. All right, identification with things. Now, example, the toy. This obviously is the context, right? We define what context is. So this is part of the context. How the toy becomes part of I is the structure. Now, Charles said, oh, I, right? This is mine. This toy is the content. But how comes that content becomes part of him? It's the thought process. He identified this toy with him. And remember how many kids lost their toy and they become so disturbed. The parents can replace that toy. Why would they become so disturbed? It's because they lost part of themselves. And that's why it hurts. They cry. Not because they lost a toy. They have so many toys. Look, in Canada, you have 16 toys. Right? If you don't have 16 toys, you probably have 20. Then why would they lose one toy and they're crying incessantly? It's because they lost part of themselves. And that is hurting. So, ego is fun. So later on, hey, my toy, my car, my house, my life. Right, what Bill Clinton said, my life, as an ego. And that becomes part of I. Now let's ask yourself, how meaningful are these when death is near? Nothing, okay? If I were giving this talk in Cantonese, I would tell them one of these Kung Fu movies, what the guy said to Genghis Khan. He said, Great Lord, you have ruled an empire bigger than all men. Even a horse takes 3 years to ride your empire from one end to the other. And when you die, how much do you own? 4/8. Okay? So, I, has no meaning, really, when you die. Now, identification with body, gender, physical appearance, we can see these clearly in TV commercials that purchase beauty products. I don't think I need to go into this because of time factors. If we have a chance, we'll come back to this, okay? I'm sure we have all seen commercial products. The beautiful woman with the big boobs, okay? And the, muscular man with big biceps, triceps, like Arnold Schwarzenegger and all that. Now, identification with status, holier than others. That's a big ego. See this? The head is bigger than his body. Now, I like to talk about the Bible story. Okay, this is the lesson of the widows with the knit. Jesus was at the Temple of Jerusalem, and he saw the Pharisees, the priests, the rich, donating all the money. Okay, they were going like this. I am donating blah, 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 okay, to the temple, to the glory of man, all right, to hell. There was an old woman who just went up there and donated 2 coins. I think we have all heard about that story, right? And Jesus said to his disciples, that woman has donated more than those Pharisees. Well, when I was growing up in the Christian school, the explanation from the minister was that 2 coins was all the woman had. So proportionally, she had donated more than these Pharisees who own land, who own whatever, and all that. To me, that makes sense, right? Poor woman, a widow, 2 coins is all her life, and this Pharisees has all these wealth and just donated portion of it. It's only in this preparing this talk that I thought of another dimension, which Jesus said about which the disciples never caught. See my ego? Never caught. These disciples never even got it. Okay, and I got it. I'm going to boast about it, okay? My ego has to grow, folks. Anyways, do you know what Jesus actually was saying in another way? Those Pharisees said, I am donating. I am holier than you. I donate all this wealth. This woman went up there humbly and below and donated 2 coins. The woman has no ego. The Pharisees had the highest, huge ego. Well, I'm sorry. Maybe I was too young and the minister could not explain that to me. Maybe he didn't even know. It's only when I'm participating in organizing this that I thought about this. Is what Jesus actually said. The Bible never told us that. The church never told us that. It never occurred to me. Because the woman may have a lot of money. Who knows? How did Jesus know? But Jesus saw the act of the ego coming out. Okay. So now, identification with fame. Ego needs to feel superior. Movie stars, sports stars. And I wonder how many of them end up in divorce. It's the ego at play. Chasing the wrong thing. Fame. How many of us remember the Beatles 50 years from now? I don't think too many of us will. Fame, temporary. Okay? True consciousness, forever. Alright. Ego lives through comparison. Chasing wealth and fame. Well, the development of the other previous concept, okay? So, all the money and things which you can carry to your next life or wherever destiny you go. And how many of us, like all the big companies, comparing, I'm number 1 now in the Fortune magazine, and you're number 2, and I'm number 2 trying to be number 1, and all this competition. It's an ego thing. So it's not just human. Our corporations, our behavior produce that too. And so, ego tends to equate having with being. Having. I have all of this. And so, I'm being nice. I have, therefore I am. I thought, therefore I am. But the satisfaction in having is relatively short-lived. Why? No form is never permanent. Mount Himalaya is still growing. All the things that we see will fall. Because form will disappear with time. Dinosaurs had gone. Ego is greedy. We talk about how the survival instinct needs greed. And always want more. Survival instinct. Wanting is structural. We talk about context and structure. Right? Thought process. It's where we hang all the things together. So no amount of content can fulfill it. For example, egos always want something from other people or situations. It's to grow. It's the survival instinct. The hidden agenda is a sense of not enough yet. That's the hidden agenda. We don't have enough. I want more. And the minute they want more, they want even more. That's an ego thing. The underlying emotion is fear. Survival instinct, basically. And again, because identification with form is never permanent. So there will be a never-ending chase. And that's why it's the original sin. Okay, now, ego wants to be right. Part of survival instinct, really, isn't it? I'm right, so I have more. I can take more from you. I'm right. Even some religious practice, I cannot write about this. Look, Catholic Church, Jesus never said that. Jesus said, love thy enemy. Okay, how many of us know what Inquisition is? Good. Inquisition is actually after the Bible was written by Constantine. A lot of people do not believe purely on what that Bible said. So the church decides that these people who doesn't conform to Constantine's Bible, which is today's Bible, should be extinguished. Jesus loved thy enemy. These people don't even love their own people. And in Inquisition, a lot of these Christians were chased out of the known world at that time, had to go to northern France. They lived with a barbarian. Okay? And there's still sects of Christian religion who believe in the earlier doctrines of Jesus. And that's what Inquisition is. Lots of people were killed under the name of religion. Okay, Reformation. Martin Luther King. Martin Luther was locked up when he tried to translate the Bible into German from Latin. Thank God the AWE group can still talk freely in our democratic society. Thank you. Okay, well obviously Islamic jihad, okay? Next one. Ego does not want peace. Because, well, there's no drama, no conflict. How can the ego grow? Ego loves complaining and resentment to feel superior. So they have more rights to survive. Okay? To feel important. Or the process is name calling. You idiot. If you eat it doesn't work and say, what the hell? Alright? And then progress to, I'll beat you up. Okay? And then of course, I'll beat you up is personal. Then let's have a war. So that's an ego thing. Ego is not just a person. It can be society. It can be countries. Ego likes role-playing. Okay, I'm the villain. Kids like doing that. If I don't want something, I'll kick up a big fuss. He's building up his ego. He wants something. The parents wouldn't give it to him. So he'll kick up a big fuss. The victim. The guy almost hit me. The guy almost hit my car. Okay, what's he playing? You know? The event has already gone. It's almost. Didn't hit you, did it? What do they want? They want sympathy. They want you to pity them. That's the ego. Sorry, this word ego is not the same as what people say, okay? That's a victim too. The ego can be passive. Doesn't have to be active. Lover. Some people fall in love with the wrong person. In my profession, I see people and say, how can you marry to that man? He beats you up. Why did you walk away? You still stay with him? What kind of person are you? So now I understand. They fell in love because they have the wanting and needing. I hate to say that this is going to be putting me in jail because they love being punished. It's feeding the negative ego. They create attention. In medicine, there's one called Munchausen syndrome. They actually pretend to have all the sufferings and pain. So doctors can amputate them. First their finger, then their toes, their leg, and all that until some smart doctor realized they're an idiot. And the woman was playing sympathy, playing the victim. It's a Munchausen syndrome. So ego does not have to be, I'm holier than thou, I'm big. Can be the other way too. Okay, the macroscopic and microscopic view, folks, okay? So all these lectures can be linked together. Sorry, you missed that part. You have to catch up, okay? Priests, doctors, wait 2 hours to see me. If you don't like it, go and see Dr. B. You have to wait 3 hours. Alright? That's an ego thing. Farmer, merchants, we all have it. It's how we apply it, okay, folks? So, you are not relating to that person at all. But who you think you are is relating to who you think the other person is and vice versa. Why is this so difficult to understand? It's because think. The thought process. If you understand when we talk about thought process, you will understand this sentence. So you are not relating to the person at all, but relating to who you think you are. That person is you, the true self, compared to what you appear outer surface. Okay, and it's relating to not the other person, but who you think the other person is. You. It's the same as I. Okay? That's why we have to break that ego to really, truly relate to people from part of ourselves. Parental role. Don't disappoint me, guys, okay? You didn't become a doctor. I spent all this on you, and then you flunked. I sacrificed so much for you. Parents know best, okay? Don't fight them. Don't fight your parents, okay? You'll never win. Be a good child, okay? Ego will take up a defensive position. Okay, you talk to your mother when they say, why don't you become A? Whatever the mother wants, rather than what you want. They will be defensive, alright? Recognize that you are dealing with their ego and not their true self. They love you. Okay, guys? Just in the wrong way. Alright? Ego can also take things personally. Believe me, I'm a doctor, I know. Oh, come on, How do you know the other person? Believe me, I know. I'm the expert. I'm your doctor. I'm your savior. After this lecture, you probably will say things differently, isn't it? Right?
That is why we are asking for second opinion.
That's right. That's why the doctor said, no, I am the expert. Go and find yourself another doctor. Right, folks? Well, I hope your doctor doesn't talk this way now. Back in the old days, that's what we do. Now we're enlightened. I don't do that. I said, great, go and see it. Take the pressure off me. I can relax, do I? Okay, in a different form. I'm looking after my own interests and pretend to be looking after yours. So I'm a little bit smarter. All right, so why don't you believe me, okay? The action can be defensive, even aggressive. That's why people have this, road rage. You go down there and beat up the other guy for cutting you off. All right. Ego leads to greed. We talk about that. Ego leads to hostility. I'm angry at you for not believing me. Ego is stubborn. I don't want to be enlightened. Now, we mentioned something about collective ego. Can act like individual ego. War, national conflict. We all know him. Yes, if we look at the bigger picture, ego can be bigger. Okay, that's the end of today.
Dr. Chan, can I ask you a question? We talk about ego today, either the positive ego or the negative ego. How would you define one should have ego? Is it the same as self-value?
Actually, that would lead to a very interesting second point in the later lectures. Ego is not really the bad thing. Okay, but we have to define ego. Because what you are talking about, the ego, is probably different from what we talk about ego here. You're talking about self-determination, the drive, the will to excel. That is not really what we talk about as an ego, based on the characteristics we are defining. Our terms are different. So it's really a definition problem. What you're referring to, that portion of the ego, is coming out of true consciousness. What I define is the statue that was covered by mud. So that's the two different words on ego. And ego can be used to benefit society. Depends on how we apply it. So it's not necessarily bad. In one of the later lectures, okay, I will be talking about greed. Okay? Greed is bad, right? No. Greed is not necessarily bad. Now let's look at greed. The Earth Buddha. Every one of us know. Do you know the Earth Buddha? The one of the Buddhas who said, until hell is all empty, I'm not going to be a Buddha. Have you heard of that one? No. Well, one of the Buddhas said, until hell is empty, I am not going to be a Buddha. I'm going to just stay as a Bodhisattva. Now, isn't that guy greedy? Look at it this way. Isn't he greedy? Well, look. He wants the hell to be empty? What kind of greed is this? His ego is really huge, isn't it? Humongous. I don't even have a bigger term for him. Is that ego bad? It's how we apply it. Okay. Right? That is extremely greedy.
What if we can't hope to be good?
That's right. Self and selfless. To sum it up, self and selfless. Okay, folks? Ego may not be bad. How we apply it. Okay? Jing, please make some comment.
No, I was just going to ask to give some comment on what you take from today's lecture.
Today's lesson is very deep and very difficult to understand, to absorb all of this information. However, I'm not sure if I get it correctly, but it's to me like ego, like you put a label to it. I still try to absorb all of the information. That's about I can say.
I think the ego they're talking about, whether it's good or bad, is whether you have the wisdom. If your wisdom is for the benefit of sentient being, it's good. But if your ego is for yourself, that is bad. And that is the same thing that Dr. Chen said about true nature and true consciousness.
I think in this lecture series, what Dr. Chen has taught us today is we start with defining what ego is, but then later on, in his summation statement, he broke his own definition. And he was thinking outside the box, right? So definition always confines certain things in this context, right? So we have to do that by definition. But later on, when he say, take the ego as one of the great bodhisattvas vow to have salvation to all earth hell beings, it's more important than him becoming enlightened. He's gone beyond the thinking boxes. So let us just put that aside for a moment. Just recap what Dr. Chen's series of lectures is. Maybe that's less confusing. We just take our thinking box bigger and bigger one at a time. So first we start out with the definition of ego. Then we talk about the evolution of the self in human, starting with single-cell organism. First, we define ego as some false construct which is not our pure nature. It's a temporary thought construct. Right? And what is the purpose of this thought construct? Right? Then in his second lecture, Evolution of the Self in Human, we start with single-cell organism and see how this self-construct has a survival instinct advantage. In order for the organism to survive, the organism evolves this thought construct called the ego. Right? And then we look at this ego can be animal instinct, human instinct, and so on. We see how this thinking box grows bigger and bigger. Then we focus entirely in human being. Right? So going from the whole evolution of all from single cell to dinosaur to human, then we just focus on individual today as human being, right? With all the toys we identify as being part of ourselves, which is all illusion, going back to this. Right? So it's an illusionary thought process of materialism based on the false premise of survival. Right? Because we don't need 20 toys to survive or, fancy cars to survive. But that's all part of the ego thing. Why do we then go so deep and deep? And then we also look at the characteristics of ego. So why do we do all this? Because the ego is an illusionary obstacle to our road to enlightenment. So I think that pretty much captures the gist of today's lecture. That is why we try to understand ego so much. We'll go to our next classmate for the comment for today's lectures.
I think if you think about others, it's easier to let go of the ego.
Usually when people talk about ego, it tends to be always the bad part of the ego. This is one of the rare lectures when we take ego in the definition as a whole thing, good and bad together. In fact, in the beginning, it's neither good or bad. Just define it what it is. Then you split it in two parts, good or bad. And this is why I find this lecture quite interesting. Thank you.
Any more comments?
Yeah, I think what we're trying to do, using the modern language, ego, but we put the positive and negative together, make it easier for people to understand. That's what AWE is doing now. So whatever they start with negative, we're trying to change it to positive. That way we can change the world.
This might be slightly beyond the scope of this lecture, but it might be a good time. So, on this slide, this thinking mode, this thinking construct, right? Thinking. When we think with our mind. And our mind is our neural network. Okay. So really, to transform or transcend or modify our ego is an extremely difficult task. If we understand neural network, there is neuroplasticity. So we have to unlearn all that old network and learn new network. Now we took, 20, 30, 40, how many, whatever your age is, that's how many years of neuroplasticity we have entrenched our neural network to be. So at AWE, we are not taking that approach, actually. We are not rearranging your neural network by neuroplasticity retraining. What we are saying is, going back to Jenny's first lecture, the mind is separate from the spirit. With spiritual enlightenment that completely overcomes all these neuroplastic thinking mode, that is where we are at. Okay? Because we're not going to rewire your brain and brainwash you. Our direction is the spirit triumph over the mind. Alright? So we have body, mind, spirit, three components that make up the whole being, the whole entity. And the spirit can triumph over the mind. Okay? So just want to end with that. Thank you.